Everybody needs what Mind Music has to offer. Everybody deserves a moment of peace, a reset, a moment to relax, a moment to focus, to realign, to recenter themselves. And Mind Music is available for all. And like water, it takes on many different forms. Whatever water connects to, it takes on that form.
Welcome back to Born Superhuman. So I've got a treat for you today. Sometimes you hear something that you can't ignore. And I was keynote speaking out at the Align Summit. And after I got off stage, this man came on and impacted an audience, but even more, he impacted me. When we talk about soul, we talk about the discovery of ourselves, but then music is the way that we can message it. And what my guest today did was, having gone through a tough upbringing where after his parents' divorce, he went through self-blame, he went through anger, and had to discover his own soul and then put that into soul music. I was touched. I had to find out more about him. I had to discover, where does that soul come from? Because I'm a firm believer, the more soul we have, the more we can impact and connect with those people. So I couldn't be more proud to introduce you today to Thaddaeus Washington.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm great. It's great to have you here. And I really look
Here,
forward
brother.
to your story and how you took this talent as a 10-year-old drummer and then idolizing your father, Lenny Washington, and picking up the guitar that now expresses your words deeper than words alone. But before we get started, tell us about your upbringing, yourself as a young boy.
Yeah, so grew up in church, right? Parents both believers in Christ, and grew up in church, going to church. That was the life, right? A lot of church. And my parents divorced when I was about three and a half, 4 years old. And even after, right, there was still, church was a mainstay. Church was foundation. It was the most consistent thing in our lives. But going to church, my mom kind of raised us when there was a split. So, we would see dad, but being raised by a single mom and, kind of journeying that. And during that time of when they divorced, I, as you spoke about in the intro, I kind of dealt with a lot of self-blame, a lot of isolation, feeling misunderstood, blaming myself for why my parents couldn't stay together. So that kind of led me down a path of really dealing with anger and, feeling misunderstood. That got me, into a lot of different trouble and feeling like I didn't fit in at all. But I found what the thing is now, my purpose, a major part of it, which is music. And it opened the door to so many possibilities, to creative freedom, to peace, to now what I use as a therapy tool, not just to help others, but myself.
Fascinating. I want to go back and dive a little deeper because I went through the same thing. My parents got divorced when I was 11, 12,
Mm.
somewhere around that. And I was the reason, in my own opinion, that they got divorced because I was also a little bit of a troubled kid.
Sure.
When did you realize that things weren't good at home? And then at what age were you then conscious of the anger you felt? Because that's two different time frames as our brain develops.
Yeah. I think I realized things weren't okay at home because my parents were ultimately split at that time, but around the ages like 7 or 8 years old, right? Because they were actually split then. A lot of what happened between that 2 to age 3 and 4, I was a young boy, right? They split. I would still see mom, see dad, see them at church. We went to the same church. So a lot of that was normal, but I really came to the realization that something was wrong. I really started to, deal with the fact that I was different, right? I've always been a very spontaneous, creative kid. Music has always been going on in my head. So when I would get kicked out of class for making beats on the table or, being high energy or, hyper as they call it, it caused me to have to sit with myself, right? Because I would always be removed from something where everybody else was. And that's where that self-blame came in. And I started to really, if you want to call it the right word, I would say identify with my anger, right? That, hey, I'm angry and I'm upset. And it always led back to the fact that things are not okay at home. Look, I'm living with my mom. I see my dad from time to time. If they have an argument, then I don't see him. I can't call him or we don't speak as much unless I see him at church or vice versa. So around that 7 or 8 years old.
How did that affect you within the community? Because I grew up in a religious environment.
Yeah.
And when you go to church, you see the parents together, you see it seems like everyone's just playing. And I became more isolated because I didn't
Yeah.
fit in. How did that affect you with friends, with family, your identification, as you
Yeah.
said, your identity as yourself? And how did that separate you and how did that show in your
Yeah.
behavior?
I think a lot of it was just kind of wanting to really be accepted. And not from the standpoint of like I want people to like me or love me, right? I knew I was loved, but when you go to church, I grew up in a family church. So even the organization, it was a national organization. But when we would go to like national assemblies or they would have these gatherings where people would come from all over the country, families would come, right? So of course, a lot of the people I grew up with, they would come with their mom and their dad. Me, if my dad wasn't traveling to the assembly or something, I would be with just my mom. So there was always this feeling of awkwardness, right? I felt like the oddball there, right? My parents weren't together. And then there was a lot of murmuring, right? There was always a lot of conversation, right? People would say things. I was always a curious kid, as I said. So I would listen in on conversation. So I would be the kid that when adults were having conversation, if I walked out of the room, I would be out of the room, but my ear would still be to the door, right? So I would hear things said about why my parents weren't together, and how that would affect me growing up, why Thaddeus was such a hyper kid or he didn't fit in and what my mom needed to do to discipline a young, energetic, boy at that time. So it really affected me tremendously, right? And there were times, honestly, Dan, where I spiraled out of control on certain things. And being that young, you know this by understanding the brain and how we develop. There was so much that I couldn't process. I didn't know how to process at that age. You're angry. And I'm reading a book right now called The Whole Brain Child. It talks about the left and the right side of the brain, right? When you're on that when you're on that other side of the brain, it's just the emotions and all of those things. You're not really able to analyze and really be aware of what's happening. So it was like this, right, for me. And there were good days, but there were definitely days where it was just totally out of whack.
Before we move on, because I think this is really important, we to hear a lot about childhood trauma in people that are still 60, 70, 80 years old. And
100%.
then we also hear about kids that may be listening to this or within a family that identify with what you're talking about, but nobody talks about it because it's a child's isolated on their own, trying to learn their feelings. An adult is ignoring what happened and so living in this weight. What advice would you say to a child that's going through this change in their life with their parents that they have no control over? They're just, I don't want to say victim, but in some ways it is a victim of somebody else's or other people's actions.
Yeah.
What advice would you share with them going through this now, or an adult who still hasn't come to terms with it?
Sure. This may sound a little cliche, but it's my real sentiments towards it. Whatever is happening isn't happening to you. It's happening for you, right? So I think about my life and when I was kicked out of class or kicked out of Sunday school, or when people would see me coming like, that's Thaddeus. I had the nickname Bad Thad. You know what I mean? That's Bad Thaddeus. Those things in the moment felt like, man, this is happening to me. My parents are divorced. They're arguing. You know what I mean? I'm supposed to go be with my dad this weekend. He's supposed to come pick me up, but him and mom got in an argument. So now that's canceled. This is happening to me. in that moment, it feels like that, right? But if I could give anybody any advice from the child who is in that or the 60-year-old who has not come to identify the fact that what happened wasn't happening to you, but it was happening for you, right? Because in life, we're all going to face challenges, right? We're all going to deal with loss. There are things that are going to happen, but we have to reverse the way we look at what's happening and say, this is not happening to me, but this is happening for me. And while something may be happening, right? If I'm split up from my family or you're dealing with, being ridiculed for being different. Your hair is too long, your skin's too dark, your eyes are too blue or too light or whatever it may be. You may know this is happening to me. Yes, it's happening to you, but reverse that and say, this is happening for me. This is an opportunity that I'm going to be able to come out on the other side of this. Because if you keep living, right, you take it one day at a time, you really stop and breathe and focus on the fact that you're still alive, no matter what it feels like, you come to realize that that didn't happen to me. That happened for me, right? That relationship that turned sour with your dad while you were 7 to 15 years old. If you really understand the fact that dad did the best that he could, and sometimes the best that our parents can do is it seems like that's nothing, right? But that's the best that they can do. But you realize that I've accepted the fact that you gave me life, that you were there. That didn't happen to me, but it happened for me to make me a better person, a better human, to really understand the fact that that's just life. So I would just say to reverse what is happening, and not look at it as it's happening to you, but it's happening for you. And just stay the course because it'll get better over time.
Yeah, there's always a lesson in everything, and it's not what we go through, it's how we handle what we go
Yeah,
through that would determine our character and our power going forward. I've never met anybody powerful in influence that hasn't suffered along the way, and if this is your suffering, it's also your power release.
absolutely.
It was interesting, nobody knows this about me, so this is a reveal. In the religious, environment I was brought up, I was excommunicated from the church at the age of 15,
Mm.
and that was one of the hardest things to go through because my parents gone through a divorce. I was the black sheep of the family. I was the troublemaker. I just didn't fit in with my other brothers and sisters. And it suddenly felt like the heaviest part of now God rejected me. Not only of my family, I felt I didn't fit, people around me didn't fit, and now God rejected me. Was there a time in your religious upbringing that you began to question religion, the church, or was that really your foundation?
No, absolutely. I mean, like I said, even now at 37 years old, I am still unlearning certain things because I was raised in a Pentecostal church. We went to church on Wednesday nights. We went on Friday nights, Sunday morning, take a break, and come back for Sunday night service. And if there was something in between, but we were taught that you take everything to God in prayer, and He'll work it out. That'll just be that. But as a young child, right, when you are hearing that God is so sovereign and you know that everything is okay, God loves us, as a young boy, you think I'm thinking about the fact that I was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of like 10, 11 years old, um, ostracized for just being a kid, right? I hate to hear the term now, bad kid. That's a bad girl or bad boy, but that was the title, the label that was put on me. All these different things. I'm still going to church. My parents can't stay together. Outside of that, they couldn't really get along. It was a very toxic upbringing for me, but I was still in church. God this, God that. I sat so many times and wondering, like, if God really loves me, what I mean, why am I suffering like this? Well, again, back to what I talked about. Why is this happening to me? So that was actually a thing. And even now, I have to be intentional about the way I look at things that I go through in life and have to remind myself that God is sovereign. And if you understand or whatever you believe in, right? I believe in God. And when you think about Jesus dying on the cross for sins and for people, you understand the fact that you're going to go through suffering. He went through suffering to die for a fallen world, right? But in that, you know what I mean, his love was consistent. It stayed the same. And I have to remind myself that no matter what I go through, that I'm not an outcast, right? It's not God punishing me. Sometimes life is just life, and it's hard to really understand that when you're young, but it's just a everyday thing that I have to continue to remind myself of. But I've had those moments, and even now those things come up, but that's where the intentionality and the daily practice of redirecting myself comes into play.
How did it affect you going into relationships then? Because we can often repeat, there's two ways. We either repeat what we grew up in, or we become so purpose driven to not repeat that we do the opposite. How has that affected you, both relationships within your family? Because I know you've got a beautiful son
Yes, sir. And a wife now.
and a wife.
Yeah.
Congratulations, which is
Thank you.
awesome. And Harlem is your son.
Yes,
He's now 3 years old, or two and a half, going on to three. And I've
absolutely.
heard he's an amazing drummer already,
Absolutely. Yeah,
following the footsteps of his father.
absolutely.
But how has that changed your perspective of his life growing up, having gone
Yeah.
through what you did?
So when we talk about relationships first, before becoming a father and dating and now a husband, I, for years, built relationships. I've always loved people and I've been curious of not things, but always people. So wanting to, build relationships. I never met a stranger my entire life, right? Not afraid to talk to anybody, have conversations. I've always been that type of person. But on the flip side of it, what I went through and everything that happened, the trauma, as you call it caused me to have this compartmentalized freezer, if you want to call it, right? Where I could have a relationship with someone, but have certain parts of myself that were locked away in this freezer, right? Or there were certain things that could happen and cause me to go totally cold and isolate. So I spent a large part of my life up until, several years ago and really, going on my mindfulness journey and learning about myself, kind of having relationships, but not going all in because I didn't want to be hurt, right? I needed to protect myself. I needed to have that backup just in case because my entire life, that abandonment, those abandonment issues and that feeling of isolation. You fast forward now to becoming a father. Harlem's 2.5. He'll be 3 in August. I'm watching this baby, right? When Harlem was born, I get to see my son. I watched the entire process. I was there. I remember traveling from DC. I was there doing some work and Hayden went into labor. And on my way, I'm just rushing. I'm all stressed trying to get home, trying to catch a flight. I get back and we go through, she was in labor for 48 hours. And finally Harlem's comes and I'm watching this life come into the world and I hold him for the first time. And there's just it's unexplainable, right? I'm looking at this life that I'm responsible for cultivating. So I have me. I'm Thaddeus. I'm a father now. I'm responsible for a human. Everything that I've been through, I have a decision to make. Either I take everything that has happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I transfer it into how I raise him, how I correct him, how I set an example for him. Or every day now, what I'm practicing, I remind myself that thing that it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. So my parents divorcing, right? I had a mandate to say, number one, I need to raise Harlem. I want to raise him in a home that is complete. Mom and dad are together. We're going to come together and we're going to become one. But after that, it's important that we stay together. My parents, I don't believe, and I talk to them, they didn't marry to divorce, but things happen, right? Whether it's lack of communication or, goals not being aligned, so on and so forth. I keep those things in front of me. And the things that I'm still healing from, I make it my business and I'm really intentional about protecting Harlem from them, but also as he gets older, being able to really talk to him, right? Because there are some things that he may, mirror of my personality and things. Just he's a very energetic kid, right? But I want him to understand, never lose that energy. You're an energetic kid, you're spontaneous, you're creative, but help him be able to cultivate that energy in a positive way and know who he is, and be able to look at me in the example that I am setting for him to make sure that he gets everything out of life. He understands who he is, his identity, and I keep that in front of me every day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It brings up a thought in me that a child often is brought into the world to make a parent feel better or to try and keep relationships together. If we have a child, it's going to align us, but we're really there for the child. That's our responsibility. A child is not there to make the parent. And I see
Yeah,
so many parents wanting the child, but not sacrificing
yeah,
for the child.
yeah.
And so then the child becomes a heavy weight out of my selfishness rather than this is the joy.
Mm,
And how do you find that that turns around and we see a lot of broken marriages and
yeah,
it's often made as a, when a community, we hear a lot about the Black community, the African American community with single mothers, disappearing fathers, but it's in every, when I look back at my family growing up, it was similar.
yeah,
How do you then influence kids if you're not being the father to not try and find a father or a power player, which often ends up in gangs?
yeah. I think it comes down to really understanding and being patient, right, with myself first. Because, and it's funny that you bring that up. My pastor, Teray Roberts, he was just talking about this on Father's Day about the fact that majority of the time we put a big emphasis on the father not being there. Fathers leave, right? They have kids and then they go, and it's like he didn't want to be there. You know what I mean? He just wanted to kind of like have a baby but not take care of it. But he said something that really struck me. He said, all men don't leave. Most men don't leave because they want to leave. They just can't handle the weight, right? There's a weight that comes along with being a father, right? And I have to remind myself that number one, there's no handbook to this, right? I got to be patient with me. Harlem is depending on me, but not just for to make sure that he has a roof over his head or he's fed or he has clothes and I get him the best education me and his mom can, but he's depending on me to be my best self. And how I can be my best self first starts with how I love myself. How patient am I with myself? Because when I do that, I'm not striving for perfection. My everyday goal is to show up and be eager to learn, eager to listen, right? So some days, and I've had to learn this, some days I got to just have my ears open and just say, okay, what do I need to learn today? Because I found myself in the beginning when Harlem was born, Hayden stayed off from work for about 9 months, 9.5 months. When she went back, I had Harlem. He was with me every day. And there was this weight of feeling like I'm supposed to be the provider. You know what I mean? I'm a failure as a father. I need to be out, you know what I mean, making money, making connections and doing these things. But I'm sitting here with this crying baby. This is my son, but he's crying. You know what I mean? I can't breastfeed him, but I have to take the breast milk and make sure that he's fed and change him and all of these things, right? And I felt like I'm a failure. I'm not showing up as the man should. But again, you got to reverse that thinking, right? And realize that it's a learning period of learning myself, learning how to show up for him. And what I tell the young men that I encounter through the work that I'm doing is number one, be patient with your parents. I've been able to, have sessions and talk with fathers who want to be in their children's lives, but they made some mistakes. They got in some trouble with the law or, what I mean, some issues with drugs or whatever, or, losing jobs. Be patient with yourself. If you want to be there, show up. Sometimes it's not about what you can do monetarily. Harlem doesn't care whether, I buy him hundreds of dollars worth of clothes or I can get him secondhand clothes or secondhand toys. He wants me and he needs me to show up regulated as his father with a positive mindset and in the best form that I can mentally, because that's what he's ultimately going to pull from. So I think it starts with patience, man, and giving yourself grace. And from there, you know, the rest of it starts to figure itself out because There's no blueprint to this thing, man. You got to take it one day at a time. And with patience and love, it all works out.
That's beautiful. It makes me think how we treat the children when they're young would determine what impacts them later. And so when a parent, and you said it beautifully, Harlem wants you. Whatever you come with is secondary to you. But if we start giving those kids things to ease our time, give them the iPad, give them the iPhone, give them games, give them a toy, which lasts 10 minutes and you got to buy another one because they're bored. What they're really looking for is you. But if you provide them with things that will become their go-to of need for that sedation almost of need.
Yeah.
We have families, and families go beyond mother and father.
Yeah.
Tell me about Anna, Doris, and Lessie.
Man. Wow. Okay. Anna Doris, let's start with Granny, as I called her. She was just an angel, man. She was albino. And she had this beautiful, like, golden hair. It was like naturally like this golden color. But she was peace. She was not always in the best health. She was born legally blind. And she went to the school for the blind as a young girl and had a lot of complications from the beginning. And what I heard from her sisters and people who knew her, she was always the same, always positive energy, loved everyone, would give them the shirt off of her back. And she was my rock. You know what I mean? She was the person that I could just talk to about anything, non-judgmental, always had a positive outlook on life. And I think it was because of her faith, her relationship with God, not church, not religion, but she knew God in a way that I believe he wants us all to know him. And she consistently lived her life out loving people, right? Whether they were good, bad, she seen the good in everyone. And she's just she's one of the reasons I'm still alive today. I believe prayers that she prayed for me, over 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I'm living them out today. So Doris was just an angel, man. And Lessie, the same, right? My grandmothers were, what I mean, from two different places, grew up different, but Lessie was the same, sweetheart, but she was tough. She was built tough, still strong in faith. Both of my grandmothers were strong women of faith and had a lot of complications in life. Lessie grew up in the, like down, I believe, in Mississippi and really, she picked cotton. I remember talking to her several years before she died about, her childhood and her education. She didn't have higher than a third or fourth grade education. And she was sharing with me, she said, "Thad, we had a choice. I had two dresses. I had one for school and one for church. And we had to make a choice. Either you could go to school, church, you know what I mean? You had to go out and pick cotton." And she said, church was non-negotiable. So she had her other dress for church. So she was not able to finish her education in school. But my grandmother took that and that resilience and that grit, you know what I mean? Just that willingness to want to have better. And she raised three children, put them through college, took care of a home, was able to balance a checkbook. She was intelligent, and again, loved everybody. She was a lover. She was a giver of her time. You could call her and say, "I'm Lessie," or "Lessie, can I, just stop by?" She'd make you a meal. She made everybody feel like they were the most important person in the room or during that time when she was with you. So they both were just amazing, man. And every day I carry them with me, a memory or just their smile or conversation we had and all that I do. And, my hope is that I make them proud just by the life that I live, the example that I'm trying to set. So yeah, man, special people.
Thank you for sharing. It sounds like you say you carry them with you every day. And I'm sure they'd be very proud seeing the changes you've made and the love that you give. to Harlem and the message you bring. So you're not just carrying them. I think they're speaking through you as well.
Mm, mm.
Beautiful. I would say as well, if people are struggling, we often forget that our grandparents have so much experience. They've learned to stay quiet and sit and watch instead of caught up in the rush. And maybe one of the most beautiful relationships you can have is going out and reaching to them and learning from their wisdom and experience, because we discover more about life, the purpose of life, and how, like you said, things happen for us as we age. What's important becomes more important as we go through life rather than the chasing we have.
Yeah.
So let's talk about at the age of 13, you at the age of 10, you were a drummer. That was your passion.
Uh-huh.
And then because of your father and the passion he had as a guitarist,
Mm.
you then picked up a guitar and that changed your life to where you are today.
Yeah.
Tell us about the guitar.
Yeah. So, like I said, started off as a drummer, and my dad, he's always been phenomenal, self-taught, just God-given ability, just raw, creative, just a machine, man, unbelievable musician. But, people would say, "Thad, you wanna learn how to play guitar, man? Like Lenny, man, when you gonna learn how to play guitar?" And I highly revered him so much to the point to where when I was a young boy, you ask people, they say, "When you gonna learn how to play guitar?" I said, "I'm not. My dad he's got that. Like, I don't need to learn how to play guitar." And I carried that for a couple years, and one day, Dan, I'll never forget, it was like a light switch went off in my head, and I was at my dad's house, and I went to him and I said, "Dad, I wanna learn how to play guitar." And, he kinda looked at me like there was this sense of like, "Okay, finally," they say, like, "When the student is ready, the teacher will appear." And my dad, that started the journey, man, and he started me off with, putting, certain records and individuals in front of me to kinda study, and I was able to go with him and sit beside him and just watch him play. He had left our church that we grew up in, for a period of time, and he went out to, experience some other opportunities, and I was able to go and sit beside him and watch him, and, I mean, the rest is just history, man. I picked that guitar up, and now it's just a part of me, right? It is a reason why I'm alive, and I just love it so much, right? I find myself just being one with it, even if I don't have it in my hand, right? I can close my eyes and picture my hands coming up and down the frets and the notes. They just become a part of me, and I'm so thankful for it. But that journey, man, has been amazing, and I'm just excited about what's next. And I'm thankful because if it wasn't for my dad and those who came before him, my Uncle Buddy and individuals that inspired him, I don't know what I would be doing right now. I'm sure I would be doing something, but the fulfillment that I have when I pick that guitar up or when I see a guitar or hear it, it's nothing like it.
Fascinating, because your dad didn't push you to the guitar, which I think a lot of times parents want to push their kids on. And like you said, when the student's ready, the teacher shows up. It's a
Yeah.
great, great saying. But I read that you've never had learned to read music. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in high school, I went to my jazz band teacher. I was in the jazz band. And I've always had an ear. Thank God, man. God gave me an ear where I could just hear things and replay them in my own way, but I could hear things and just play it back. But I remember going to my jazz band teacher, Mr. Heath, who's deceased now. But I went to him, I said, "Mr. Heath, I want to learn how to read music. I want to learn." And he told me, Dan, he said that you have something that not many people have or they discover. And he wouldn't teach me. I would be in jazz recitals with the sheet music in front of me, and there was another kid in the class who could read, and I would be up there playing this stuff verbatim off of really retaining it through my ear, and he would be like, "Man, that's fascinating." He said, "I may not be here to see it, but I want you to just continue developing your ear, and it's gonna take you places that you never imagined." And I remember being so crushed by that. in high school. So I'm like, what do you mean? I'm in the jazz band. I want to learn. But that sticking to that and now, right? I'm so thankful that I did. It has it's really opened doors and opportunities. And I admire people who go and they study, they get degrees and they learn how to read. But no formal lessons. I've even tried to take lessons over the years, and my teachers wouldn't even take my money. And I was humbled by that because, like I said, everything that I got, man, doesn't come from a book. Um, you put some sheet music in front of me now and then, it's like Mandarin. I can't do nothing with it, right? But I can hear, and I'm thankful for my ear that God gave me an ear to be able to hear things and create things and recreate things, but no formal training, no, never learn how to read.
Just organic.
Absolutely. 100%.
Did you see the movie, The Green Book?
No, not familiar.
Okay, you got to go see it. It won the Oscar for
Okay.
it. And in there, it's based on a true story of a gentleman, a concert pianist called Dr. Shirley.
Wow.
And absolutely fantastic. I saw the movie probably 10 times.
Wow.
And he was an African American concert pianist that wanted to tour the Deep South,
Hmm.
but he would always perform for these white people that wouldn't let him eat in the place that he would play in. When he ate, he had to leave to eat and then come back in and play. So they would take his talent, but they wouldn't take him as a person.
Wow.
And there's a beautiful scene right at the end of the movie. I won't give it away too much,
Yeah.
but he talks about in the movie, it's such a powerful movie, but he talks about he doesn't fit in. He was a trained musician
Mm.
that played for white people, wasn't accepted by black people, but white people would never accept him, and he lived the loneliest life
Wow.
until Mortensen, Morganson, who took him then to a black club, and he walks in wearing a tuxedo, and everyone's looking at him like he's this weird guy, a
Yeah.
black man in a black club wearing a tuxedo with a white guy. But he gets up and he plays with a jazz band without knowing anything.
Mm.
And it's the first time you see him smile in the movie because of the love of music. And that's what you brought up to me
Wow.
in there. You got to watch it. It's a
Oh,
it's a
absolutely. The
beautiful
Green Book.
green book. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah. Viggo Mortensen, he brought to life the
Wow.
missing of both communities. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
So let's jump on. You had an experience on stage
Yeah.
where you blanked
Yep.
in the middle that was devastating and yet may have been the biggest trigger for your growth in music. Let's
Yeah.
hear it.
Yeah. I mean, several years ago, making his band, Sean Puff Diddy Combs, he had this thing on MTV where it was a show where band members and individual musicians could try out to try to make Diddy's band. Well, I went out and I made it all the way to the semifinals from Toledo and made it to Detroit. Phenomenal musicians, man. Musicians now that took that opportunity and are playing for the likes of Babyface, Gladys Knight, you name it. They were all on there. A lot of those are acquaintances of mine, good friends. But I made it on stage, and basically what they would have everybody do was come around and like there were like 5 guitar players, 5 pianists, 5 bass players, drummers, and you would switch off, right? And they gave us a total of like 3 to 4 songs that we had to learn, and it was the whole goal of it was to see how you were with different band members, how you flowed, so on and so forth. So everybody would get a turnaround. They swap out. You'd start off on bass. Then I would come on. Well, came time for my opportunity. And I had rehearsed this music like no tomorrow. Man, I remember American Boy was the song that it came out and I came up, it was time for me to come out on stage. They like everybody's cheering like that. Get it, bro, get it. Go out there, man, cheering for me. We were all cheering for each other. Man, I got on stage, Dan, and it came around to me to play my part. And when I tell you, it was like my brain, it would almost be like um, me handing you a guitar. And I don't know if you know how to play music or not, but me handing you my guitar, and it's like, Dan, play this song. I mean, you would know what to do, right? Well, that's what happened to me. And I'm there and I'm literally like nothing is coming up. So the judges are looking like, you all right, man? Maybe it's your nerves. All right, come on around, come back around. Come on, because we were able to go around. I could come off stage and they're like, bro, you good? Like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. So I start strumming, playing it right off stage. Comes back then. It was like, so I'm like, I got this, man. My nerves, shake it off. Come back out. They rooting for me. Come on, Dad, let's go. Same thing happened again. Make a long story short, it happened 3 times. And that final time, it was just like, the judges were looking like, I mean, dude, you had, is this like, are we being punked? Because there's no way you make it to the semifinals. You make it this far if you couldn't do it, right? There's no way. I was devastated. I got back to the hotel room and, my homeboys, they all went and killed it. And I remember one of my homies, Joey Green, bass player, phenomenal bass player. He was just like, just kind of encouraging me like, Dad, keep your head up, bro. It happens. But I remember just crying. I got on the phone and my dad and them did not want me to take the opportunity because, again, I was raised in church, right? I was always taught you use your gift for the Lord. You don't use it for the world. You play in church, you pay for God. So there was that. And I remember calling them, telling them like I was going off on everybody, granny, even my granny. I said, y'all cursed me, y'all jinxed me, y'all wanted me this not to happen. This was the greatest opportunity of my life, to take me to the next level. And my granny said something to me, Dan, that I'll never forget. In a very still voice, she said, Dad, this is not what God has for you. He has something greater for you. I'm sorry. I know that this hurts, but you're going to come out on the other side. It is better. Very simple, very soft voice. I'm high energy. I'm crying. I'm hollering. She told me she loved me and we got off the phone. And it hurt. It stung, man. I honestly, after that, for about almost 6 months or so, I didn't even want to play music no more because I felt like, man, this is the biggest opportunity of my life at that time. How do I get up and squander? What is going on with me? You know what I mean? I know the music. I could play it after getting off the stage. How do I get on stage and my mind goes blank? How does this happen? But I'm a firm believer that God does everything. There's nothing that happens by coincidence. He had bigger plans for me. And while I have, even after that, had the opportunity to tour and, play for artists and travel around the country playing, I believe that opportunity, while it worked for some people and many people, it got them their break. That wasn't the opportunity that he had for me. And it wasn't happening to me. It happened for me. And I'm thankful for all that I've been able to accomplish since then. But that was a gruesome experience, to say the least.
What an amazing lesson. I'm a big believer there's something called fame and there's something called glory,
Yeah,
and they don't come together.
that's
They're
good,
two
brother.
separate powers.
Yeah,
If you had taken that, and I know you've had some great artists that have asked you to come in and tour with them that you were going to take and you had to think deep and it was painful for you to turn down because, again, it would have been fame. It would have been a certain recognition of your talent by others, but your
yeah.
talent hadn't changed. It led you to your purpose today. If you had been on those bigger stages on visual, you wouldn't be on the biggest stage you're on now.
Mm.
Tell us about your purpose.
Oh, man. I believe that my purpose is to inspire, right? Through the gifts that I have, through the movement that I am currently building and pushing, right? Whether it be through Mind Music, which is a wellness platform and movement to help individuals gain access to mindfulness practices, right? The power of mindfulness, being present, being aware in the moment, right? Being focused right there. So through this music that I've created, through programs in schools with kids to inspire them to understand that, hey, when we are having off days, when we're having a hard time managing our emotions, I've created a tool that helps you do that, that helps you focus, that helps you get sleep, helps you get rest. Or the songs that I write, the lyrical songs that help, become the driving force to help people find their peace or redirect them into the joy that we have of just breathing breath every day. It's all about inspiring, man, inspiration for people to live their best lives, to really come to identify their purpose on earth. I believe that the world that we live in, with the distractions now, the propaganda that has always been, but now with social media and so many outlets, there's so many distractions. People lose sight of why they're here. A lot of people feel like there's been so much that has happened to them and loss after loss, like I'm just random, right? I just somehow or another I made it through, and I was able to be born, but there's a purpose for us all. We were all created to solve a problem, to be a part of cultivating the world in which we want to see, whether it's starting with one person and impacting one individual or hundreds or thousands. So my goal is to use my life. My purpose is to use my life, the experiences, the hurt, the trauma, um, the shortcomings, to help others find their purpose and really understand that we all were created uniquely, individuals, to do something great. We all were born with greatness inside of us. And the more we lock in and be mindful, the more amazing things that we can do and impact the world. So that is my purpose, along with being the best father I can be, to raise that young prince who will be, a world changer, to impact the world around him as well. But that's my purpose, brother.
That's beautiful. There's two directions I want to go because I've got two questions going in my head off of that. Um, and I'll start with this one. There's a lot of anger and entitlement that comes from pain in the world right now.
Mm,
And people think that they're going to achieve happiness by getting what they think they want. And a quick story, I was down shooting a lead in a movie in South Africa, and I'd go into the rich hotels. I play the piano and sing. So I'd sit and play the piano and I'd sing, and I'd have these rich white guys like, shut up, and they're just drinking at the bar. And I could sing and I could play. So it wasn't like it was, bad. But then I went into the shanty towns, the kind of Soweto type of areas, very, very poor, and yet the happiest place I can remember going. There'd be singing, there'd be dancing, there'd be finding a way to find happiness through struggle rather than things through struggle. And so, as you had said, doing the work, going through the pain, understanding it's happening for you, to then find out what your purpose is will bring you that enlightenment rather than just trying to get something. But that brings me on to the second part, because when I heard you play, it was mind blowing. And I don't say that lightly. I've been around brilliant musicians. I've performed on stage for over 5 million people
mm,
worldwide. I've had an incredible life. But there was something so unique and special about the piece that your music brought to go heavier, to go into a meditative state,
mm.
to release the pain, anger, or whichever someone's carrying. We've had sound baths. My brother has a sound bath. We do that. But yours was so unique because it's with the guitar and yet brings out. What is your destination? Who do you want to engage with? Is it schools? Is it young children?
Yeah.
What right now is your focus?
Yeah. So right now, the focus is children. We do a lot of work with kids, students, even working with toddlers. I've been blessed to have the opportunity to teach mindfulness, introduction to toddlers and preschoolers, right? But the goal is to make it accessible for all. So any human being, any person with a mind, with a brain, because everybody needs what mind music has to offer. Everybody deserves a moment of peace, a reset, a moment to relax, a moment to focus, to realign, to recenter themselves. And mind music is available for all. And like water, it takes on many different forms. Whatever water connects to, it takes on that form. And my music is the same. So whether we're working in schools with kids from first graders, preschoolers, all the way up to high school students or executives in the C-suite and entrepreneurs, or in dialysis centers with patients that are sitting for hours, right? Getting their blood transfusions and so on and so forth, right? That need something that will help calm the mind and turn this daunting experience into a peaceful experience, right? My music and the music that I create all across all ventures is here to help anybody with a heart, with a mind, with a soul. And it's created from the soul, right? So I appreciate you sharing about your experience of hearing at Align Summit, right? I am not a person, while I have music that I've created, if you hear any music that I've created on an album and you hear me play it live, it's never the same. You know what I mean? The chord changes and progressions may be the same and it may be in the same key, but it's different every time because it comes from the feeling. I can only play and create from what I feel. Sometimes I'm feeling sad. I'll take that sadness and use it and turn it into something beautiful and peaceful to help others. And it's just all energy that I am, you know what I mean, taking from God and He's giving me. And my job is to just take it and share it with the world. So it's for everybody, brother. Everybody.
It makes me smile because it reminds me my mum would say she could tell what mood I was in when I was a kid growing up by how I played the piano.
Mm,
Because I could play the same song 10 different ways. And she goes, "Oh, he's happy, he's depressed, he's down, he's excited." And so I get exactly what you're saying.
yeah.
What's really cool is you got the electric guitar. When I heard you play, it was fantastic. And so it's cool as well
Yeah.
because we've seen the rock stars out there. We've seen, up on stage and the so many great ones. And so when we have the sound bath, it seems like, okay, I've got to bring myself down. But when you stepped on stage, it's like, okay, what's going to happen here? Yet
Yeah.
the music was beautiful. Do you think that's part of the impact that you have with children and with adults, that
Yeah.
you've made something so beautiful out of something that has a different image?
Yeah. And you know, it's funny that you say that because typically, whenever I've been engaged in conversation contractually to bring mind music or do it and they hear guitar, people are like, well, I mean, we don't want it to be too, we don't want it to be too harsh or because, again, like you talked about, when you hear electric guitar, mindfulness, peace, it's like, how do you do that? And of course, electric guitar can be melodic, right? It's beautiful. You can play these chords that are beautiful and these leads that are beautiful. But yeah, my approach with it is it's all about transmitting something different, right? And exploring because I'm being creative every time. So I'm exploring different reverb patches and different sounds that make the guitar sound so angelic, right? It may sound like an angel and really give something that changes the way people see how this instrument is presented in this form, right? And my goal is to inspire others, right? Whether it be with the guitar or individuals to take a flute or, you know what I mean, the drums. And you have all these people who have done these things with instruments and have brought them into certain environments to present it in a way. But yeah, man, my goal is to bring something unique, and I think we're doing that with my music, with the way it's done with the electric guitar, and we're just getting started. I'm exploring and learning every day, every week, and just expanding my palette to be open, right, to new frequencies, to create different environments and opportunities for people to experience mindfulness, peace, meditation through the music that I create, through the experiences, right? To give them something that they haven't experienced before or another reintroduction to it through this form.
I'm a big believer in sound waves, the impact that it has both for brain health and for cellular health. And I can't emphasize enough to people, you have to hear Thaddeus's music to understand what we're talking about. This is not just another piece of music. It's so impacting. And I had never realized before
Hmm.
that sound vibration, that frequency coming off of your guitar, I felt penetrated me deeper than I would off of other musical instruments, not just the instrument, the way it's played in here, but I've gone and done sound baths, but nothing penetrated the way that your music did.
Oh, thank you, brother.
So I told you today at the very beginning that you were in for a treat. Well, for the first time ever on Born Superhuman, we're going to close this out with Thaddeus bringing a message, but you're going to get to hear that music through his message, which I guarantee is going to leave you with chills and wanting more. Thaddeus, over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for watching this episode, for leaning in. And I just want to leave you with this message of long suffering, right? And when I think about long suffering, I think about the fact that no matter where you are, no matter your economic background, how much money you have, where you live, we're all going through something. We are in the middle of something. We have been trying to navigate something. Our world is going through something right now that feels confusing, like it's never going to end. But I want you to be encouraged, right? And I want to leave you with this thought of long suffering that as you're going through, right, that it won't be as long as it has been. And stay positive, right? Remember to be patient with yourself, with others, love yourself, and we're going to make it through. So I just want to leave you with this message of long suffering. Thank you.
Amazing. Beautiful. Put me in a special place for the rest of the day and feel so calm and at peace. So thank you so much for gifting us that moment. And again, so happy to have that for the first time on my podcast. I want to give a shout out to Luann Fries for bringing us together with the Aligned Summit. I would never have met you, but proud to call you a friend, a brother, and just really appreciate what you're committing to life. It's beautiful. Where can people find your music and more about you? And I would strongly suggest, where could they hire you, book you to come in so you can experience exactly what you bring in the most beautiful setting?
Thank you, brother. Adsworld.com. That's my website. So easiest way to really get in contact with me for booking or learn more about how to get access to the music, links to my socials, but also anywhere you stream music, right? If you want to get access to the music, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, or on all streaming platforms. And there's more information that'll be coming about experiences, right? We're going to be doing a lot more live experiences and live shows. And to find out information about mind music, you want to bring it to your school or to your organization or to your city, right? You want to do a mind music experience in your city, go to mind-music.co, mind-music.co. That will give all the information about all the amazing things and the work that we're doing, testimonials, our philosophy on mindfulness and how we approach it and the movement. And again, man, Dan, I just want to say to you, thank you, man. When I met you, when I heard you speak at Alliance Summit, your message was electrifying, right? And you meet people and you can tell off the energies off of a greeting. I remember when my brother D had met you and you were asking, while we were sitting in the back, and you just had this energy and this light about you. And when I heard you speak and the things that you shared, they touched my soul, brother. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to share my story and share something that I hope inspires your audience. And I'm just thankful for your friendship, for this connection, and grateful for this opportunity today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want to add to that in there, Thaddeus, that you don't just show up and play. Your mindfulness is also messaging. It's the way you speak. You connect with people, and that is your beauty. Thank you so much. Have the greatest day ahead. And tell Harlem I give him a big hug as well and your whole family.
Thank you, brother. Take care.
Thank you.